right, here we are. We're back, Kev.
We are
The wait,
back.
the Wait for It Seattle podcast is back after a 12, 11 year hiatus. Ready to roll. We're old men now.
I don't know about me. You look a little
Okay,
old.
I am an old man. I am an old man. That's true. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, Kevin, you and I podcasted last, we think, somewhere around the 2012 range
Mm-hmm.
era. Before podcasts were cool. And you had Seatown Sports. For people who don't know, tell us how you started Seatown Sports.
I was a high school student and at uh at Seattle Prep and uh I wasn't really that good at sports, so I liked writing about sports. And so I started a blog my sophomore year of high school, and that's where I fell in love with writing and writing about Seattle sports. And so I kept on doing it, and then uh it kind
You
of
you
took off.
really you also blew up because you started ranking high school players, and even to this day, like there's a market for that. Like people
Yes.
love talking about rankings number one and high school athletes number two. Like for sure.
Yes. And I kind of get a little annoyed because okay, this might be a little arrogant of me, but
That's all right. Go for
yeah, I
it.
think that I did it really good as a high school kid. And I think people that try to do it now, like, it just doesn't seem good. I don't think it's good.
I know. Well,
Um,
maybe you need to get back in it, baby.
yeah, yeah. I do not want to deal with parents emailing me.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah. So
Anyways,
at the same time you were doing that, when I graduated college years and years ago, I wanted to be a sports writer before I became a teacher. I was like, that's what I want to do. So I just always have that like budding passion, creative outlet. And so I just started creating like my own blogs or websites. And I created one called Wait for It Seattle. And you and I connected. Um, Obviously, years ago, I was your teacher. You also were the manager on our basketball team that I coached on, and then we just stayed in touch over the years, and we did it together. And the Wait for It Seattle name originated because in the early 2010s, late 2008, 9, Seattle sports were atrocious. Like just
horrible.
2008 is the bottom. So 2008, the Sonics left. The Mariners lost 100 games. The Seahawks went 4-12. I'm pretty positive about all these. And the Husky football team, that was the Tyrone Willingham 0-win season.
Yeah,
So they
and
were, so yeah.
yeah. And if then the Cougs won one game that season
Yeah,
too,
that's
and it
right.
was
Yeah, yeah.
against the Huskies. So they went
That's
1-1.
right. They
It
beat
was
the Huskies. Yeah.
horrible.
So Seattle sports were at the bottom, and we had the Seattle Sonics 1979 championship team. We had a Storm, Lauren Jackson, Sue Bird championship, maybe two, I think, at that point. Maybe it was only one. They might have won their second right around there. And then we had nothing, no other championships. We had Seahawks had never been, past the AFC championship when they were back in the 80s. The Mariners, obviously, their World Series drought continues, but they hadn't even made the playoffs in a long time.
The
And
Sounders didn't exist.
Sounders wait, is that true?
I think 2009 was the
Okay, right
first
around
season.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So Wait for It Seattle. The premise of the name was like basically we're always waiting. We're waiting for a championship. We're waiting for a good season. We're waiting for superstars after Griffey left and A-Rod left and whoever else and the Sonics were gone, or we're waiting for anything. And then in the time that we podcasted, the Seahawks got amazing and won the Super Bowl. um,
Incredible.
yeah, which kind of we also were just at different stages of life, but I feel like it crushed my buzz for the name of the site. But
Yeah.
I think it's still relevant. Like Wait for It Seattle, right? The Mariners made the playoffs for the first time after 20 years, but they still never been in the World Series.
Wait,
We're still,
pause. Can you believe that we took a break from this podcast for 10 years
yeah,
and the Mariners made one playoff appearance in
yeah,
that?
that's ridiculous. Actually, to think about. They had Felix Hernandez in his prime when we left. Ichiro was still relevant. You'd think you'd just run into somebody, which they did with Julio, but they've only
Yeah.
been in the playoffs. The Seahawks actually only went downhill from there, but they've been relevant. Um, I would have guessed if you had told me in 2014, 13, I would have said the Sonics were back by now. They're
Yeah,
not. I would have guessed that the Husky basketball would have been relevant at some point. Nope. I don't know that I would have guessed the Husky football team would have gone to the national championship game. That's
yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
yeah. I
But
think that's the bright spot
yeah,
since the last time.
yep. And the storm have been awesome. The rain have been good, but so Seattle sports is not, in the dumps like it was, but wait for it, Seattle still exists. I'm a diehard Mariners fan, as are you. So I think until they make the World Series, the name still is still
Yes.
relevant. Yeah.
Yes. Speaking about the Mariners,
There we
so
go. Yep.
let's go. Let's get into the first segment. So
Yep.
the Mariners are at this time, and did they win today?
They won 7-5.
They won
Beat the
seven to
Rangers
five.
again. Yep.
Great. So they're in first place. They've extended their lead
Yep.
in the AL West. We're not quite yet at the halfway point, but we're about a week or two out from that point. Um, have they, in your estimation, at this point of the season, have they not met expectations? Have they met expectations, or have they exceeded expectations?
This is to me what's wild about this team. Like record wise, I would say they've exceeded. And part of it is their lead. Like they have a 7.5, I think, game lead on the Rangers and the Astros. Part of it's the Rangers and the Astros, right? So them being not good, that exceeds expectations. Having a 7.5 game lead is wild. Being 11 over 500 exceeds my expectations. But the actual product on the field in some weird ways is below my expectations. And that doesn't make any logical sense.
Well, I think that's what's awesome about it is
Right.
because they're playing bad, but they're doing all those things that you just said. They're in first
Yeah.
place. They're however many games over 500. They have this nice lead over the Rangers, and they're not that good. So
Right.
imagine if they get good.
Right. And I feel like this is the conversation we have about the Mariners every single year over the last, like, let's say 15 years. But Cal Raleigh's hitting 209. Mitch Garver's hitting 173. JP's hitting 205. Haniger's 227. Polanco, who was like, yes, let's go. We have a second baseman, 195. Like they just can't hit. And it's the same story every year. The difference is this year, for whatever reason, well, first their pitching is phenomenal. We knew, and I think that is what I hoped would be that they would be like this, but maybe they're a little better. Um, but they're gritty. Like they just find ways to win games. That people talk about Scott Service and one-run games. I think they're 17-7 in one-run games. Is it luck? Is it not luck? Like they're truly gritty. They think they can win every night, which is a legitimate thing a team can have to be good.
So that's interesting because I, it's kind of like the Huskies from last season,
Yeah.
where they were in all these close games and they just kept on winning. And this whole time we were thinking, well, they're eventually going to lose. And then they
Right.
make this run to the national championship and just lose against Michigan, right?
Yeah.
And I do think that there's something to be said of that, where you are gritty enough where you get to a point where that becomes kind of like an aspect of your team.
Yeah. Like a
Um,
personality or like a,
yeah, yeah. And Julio hasn't been, I don't remember where he was last year at this point, but he's been a disappointment. I think it's fair to say.
yeah,
Uh,
I think that's fair. I think he's definitely a second half player in his young career. He's done that last year. He did it his rookie year. He hit a homer tonight. He's getting a little hotter. His hard ball data, whatever hard hitting data, is pretty good. Scott Service in their post game tonight said what he liked is he pulled a ball in the air, which I think is always interesting to listen to the manager talk about, stuff that we don't see. And I think he said there's probably 8 to 10 balls in this year that he should have just roped to left that he popped up. So his timing is just like a little off. So the homer tonight, he hit a Oppo homer, 99 mile per hour fastball above his eyes against Michael Kopech the other night that was ridiculous. So I think he's coming there. I think Julio's going to be fine. It's they keep adding guys, and I love Mitch Haniger, and I was all excited about Polanco. And Luke Rayleigh's been pretty good, but it's like, last year there was AJ Pollock and Tommy LaStella and all these dudes. They just can't hit here for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, I love that article that came out, maybe it was a month or 2 months ago, about the marine layer and
Yeah,
how these hitters just kind of heat up literally when the weather starts to heat up in Seattle. And I think that partly explains why they go on these second half runs,
right,
because the hitting gets better, right? Um, and now all of it makes sense, right? Like
right,
all these guys that we've had these big free agents that we've had in the past that kind of like just faltered.
right.
It's because our stadium's not T-Mobile Park's not conducive uh to these guys just keeping their stats the same way they've been hitting their whole careers. So I I kind of want to shift the conversation to
Yeah.
like what can go wrong. And
Okay.
this is
Yeah.
what's going, or I put on our little
Yeah.
outline, where does this team need improvement?
Yep.
I think that kind of meshes in with this idea
Yep.
of where could things go wrong. And here's what's floating down in my head. I feel like the bullpen is Andres Munoz
Hmm.
and like maybe a couple guys that can throw hard, but
Right.
none of those. It's not to the level it was 2 years ago, where it
Right.
was easy Munoz and then Seawald.
Yep.
I'm forgetting who else. Who's the guy
Matt
also
Brash
there?
has been
Yeah,
part of
Matt
that.
Brash.
He's
Yeah,
out for the year. Yep.
yeah. So this bullpen seems not as strong. So I think that's definitely going to be something at the deadline that they're going to look
Well, let's
at.
pause. Let's pause there
Yeah,
because we
yeah.
did not. We did not talk about this at all. And I thought for sure the first thing you would say is hitting because we just spent
Oh,
5 minutes talking about hitting. And
yeah,
I am 100% agree with you. Like the bullpen is my number one concern. Because I feel like you double down on your strengths, like whether it's a marine layer or it's whatever it is, like Polanco's been a good hitter everywhere he's gone. Guys they've had before have been good hitters and they struggle to hit here. So that's a reality we have to just face.
yeah,
Uh, but their starting pitching is phenomenal. And then the relievers, it's like holding on for dear life right now. I mean, Ryan Stanek is their closer because Munoz has had this back issue, and Stanek's been really good, but I don't feel like he's like Seawald level the last couple of years, or even Brash. Brash is obviously out for the year. They got a guy from the White Sox, Santos, who's still out. Like at this point, I'm not really expecting him to even pitch. I don't really know what's going on with him injury wise.
yeah,
So I agree with you. And I think they're good at finding a dude. So I think, one of the things I'd like to write about in the next week or so is like finding five like no name relievers that we should be targeting because I agree with you. Like
yeah,
we need to find, these guys on other teams that are going to sell, like the White Sox, like Michael Kopech, who people will want. He throws 99, he's 100, but he's the kind of guy we got to fill in this bullpen because it's been a revolving door of dudes who I am like, who are you?
yeah,
Like Tony Bolton or whatever his name is, Michael Bolton. I don't know what his name is. Like these dudes are calling up, I've never heard of them before. And I feel like I pay a lot of attention. Like I know who's in the minors. I'm like,
yeah,
guys that are
yeah,
Saucedo's good from the left side. Gabe Spire's hurt right now. That will help when Spire gets back because he's a stud. But yeah, double
It
down.
feels shaky. It
Yeah,
feels
double
shaky right
down.
now.
Go
Yeah,
get go get a dude or two who could throw 99 and just like lock that up. I
yeah,
agree. Yeah.
yeah. It One thing that's different than 10, we're gonna say this a lot, but 12 years ago is
Yeah.
this rule change where
Yeah.
since COVID, you go into the 10th inning with a guy on second base.
Right.
Um, and I think the Mariners have navigated that pretty damn well, because it's like you said, we're consistently winning close games, but part of that and being able to pull those games off is having your bullpen not blow up.
Right.
Um, and things are fine right now. It's June, but once these arms start to wear and tear, and once our starters too can't go
Yeah.
7 innings, um, yeah, I'd be shocked if they didn't get a bullpen, at least one bullpen arm at the deadline. I think that's for sure.
Yep.
Um, okay, so the last thing is just generally thinking. So
Yep.
the Mariners, for the first time since 2001 in 2022, made the playoffs. Um, you can argue if it's the wild card has made it easier, whatever.
Yep.
But they did make the playoffs, and they they were on their way last season until they kind of just collapsed in
Yep.
September, late August. And this year they're in first place. And it seems like the fan base might have different expectations than they did when, we were talking in 2012.
Yep.
Um, has your baseline level of expectation changed since before maybe 2022?
Yeah, I think I'm going to sound like people are not going to like it who like the Mariners because everyone wants to bash Jerry Dipoto. I think he's done a good job, man. Like I think they've built a sustainable competitive team. So that's what's different. Like 2012, 2013, even like, you know, they tried to go in with Nelson Cruz and Robinson Cano, which was kind of awesome. So they tried to go free agents but they had a terrible minor league system, right? And then they've done both now. Like they had the number one or number two minor league system a couple years ago, and then all those dudes got promoted. Gilbert, Kirby, all these guys, Julio, obviously, right? And then now they've built it up again. Like they have dudes again. Like have
Yeah,
some guys down there that like I was listening to a segment on Brock and Salk with Jeff Passan, and they're like, there's guys who are untradeable in their minor league system. Like
yeah,
Colt Emerson, who they drafted last year, I think, is like untradeable. And
yeah,
Celestine is like an 18-year-old in rookie ball. They're like, he's pretty close to untradeable. Well, if that's true, like that's awesome that they have a major league team is in first place with the most enviable starting five in the majors. And, you
yeah,
could argue it's not the best. The Yankees have been really good, but like the amount of years of club control in contracts on that starting five, I think makes them the most enviable, right? And if they're not the best.
and here's
Um,
here's the best part.
yeah,
They've built the team to match the strengths of where they play,
totally.
right?
Yeah,
And you'd think that that would have clicked for whoever was GM before
right,
this, right?
right,
I don't think Zarenzik that never like clicked, that
yeah,
you just need to just load up on these pitchers.
right,
But the club control thing is huge, right?
yeah,
Because I think there were good pitchers in the past, Felix Hernandez, Cliff Lee. I think they've tried this out,
yeah,
but they couldn't afford it.
yeah,
And I think now with having it homegrown, it helps a whole
yeah,
bunch.
yeah. It's the
Um,
name of the game in baseball because without a salary cap, you know, the reality is like people want the Mariners to spend more, and there's, Stanton has come out and said he'll trade for a salary, which is great to hear. We'll see if it actually happens. But almost every team has a constraint. They just do. Like,
yeah,
if you're not the Yankees or the Dodgers, you have a constraint. So even the Red Sox are playing with constraints now. So like you
yeah,
have to have some homegrown talent under this system with club control that has a decent salary. So you can go, theoretically give Julio a 14-year deal and whatever else you need to do. So
yeah,
my expectations have gone up. My baseline for them is up. I'm now feeling like every year they should compete for a playoff spot, if not be in the playoffs. Um, so I'm excited
yeah,
about it.
yeah.
But let's transition to our mailbag and the Mariners. Let's stay with the Mariners, and then
All
we'll go
right.
to some other stuff. So we do a mailbag, a lot of fun. We get questions from our loyal subscribers. 6 of which are listening to this podcast. That's great. Um, and one of the things you talked about is should the Mariners trade for Luis Robert of the
Yeah.
White Sox, who absolutely torched us in a 4-game series.
3 home runs, right?
So did that make you feel more confident in your bold claim that like go for it?
Yes, yes, yes. Because we're 7 games up now,
Seven and a half game lead.
seven
Yeah.
and a half games. I want 15
I
games.
know. I
I
know.
don't think Robert will get us to 15 games, but if he gets us to 12 games,
Yeah.
it's totally worth it. Give up one of our top five prospects.
Yeah.
We're here. We
He's
have the
he's
pitchers.
also under club control.
Yes.
The concerns with him, I was listening to some people talk about it, is, he hits fastballs. He doesn't hit breaking stuff as well. He strikes out a lot. Sounds like a
Yeah.
Mariner.
Yeah. And
Like,
it could be like a Julio. I mean, if you have him and Julio doing the same thing, maybe that's not as helpful.
right. And
But
he
he's,
gets injured a
yeah.
lot. But
Yeah.
it would be awesome. It would be huge for the city if they trade for a real hitter. Like, obviously him, Vlad Guerrero, those would be incredible. Um, but even like a Tyler O'Neill in Boston, who was here before, who we traded for Marco Gonzalez, who's also hurt all the time, but just like another dude who can hit. Like, I just think, I mean, there's 40,000 people going to the games this weekend against the Rangers in June. That's awesome. You're gonna sell more tickets. Like, people are gonna be excited. They're ready to burst right now if they trade for somebody. I you know, I don't want to trade one of the two top dudes, but like, you got to go for it. Like, you do have to go for it. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tricky. The future versus present, which
Is
is my
there anybody, so you've made your top 10 prospect list. Is there anybody you're willing to just, I think it's got to take one of our top five guys to get him, right? Or,
yeah. I don't want to trade Cole Emerson, number one, and I don't want to trade Celestine, who I don't think I have. I think I'll move him up to like two. He's 18 years old. They say he has a higher ceiling than Julio. He's a shortstop. I just don't like trading guys, and Emerson's young. I just don't like trading guys that are young who are already good.
yeah.
Like, I just, again, that club control thing, but trading a guy in like the 5-6 range, like unfortunately, Johnny Farmello, who's like a top prospect for us, just tore his ACL. So he's out. So nobody's going to want him probably, and we probably won't. But there's a guy like Lazaro Montez who just absolutely hits bombs and like would be super exciting. But you trade up what he could be for Robert now, like,
Yeah.
sign me up.
Okay, so what about this? One of those top guys, and what if the White Sox want Brian Wu? Do you
No,
do it?
no,
Wu's untouchable for you.
he's not untouchable. I just don't think you can trade from the area of strength. It's not worth it to me. Like, I wouldn't trade Wu and the guy. Like, Wu by himself, I'd be curious, like, can you
I
slide?
don't think that's enough, though. I don't think the White Sox do that. I
I
don't think Brian
mean,
Wu's
probably
enough.
not. Yeah, probably
Yeah.
not. Because Robert's under control.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they can hold on to him too. They don't have to trade him. He's not a free agent. They don't have to trade him this July. So
I'm just preparing myself for if they don't pull off one of this big name trades, and I don't think it's going to happen because
yeah,
that's not what Depoto's done. But
yeah.
everyone's going to be complaining that we're going to predict right now. We just predicted that we're going to go after bullpen arms. Everyone's going to be like, "What are we
No,
doing?"
you and I think are realistic, but like, social media is not helping either. Like, all these MLB
Yeah,
sites like are saying like Bo Bichette of the Blue Jays, like, top 10 landing spots, and like the Mariners are number two, and like
yeah,
Luis Robert, the Mariners are number three, and
yeah,
so like somebody in the organization or somebody somewhere is putting out vibes that like they're willing to go for it, but the past has told us it's just smoke. Like, it's not. It doesn't actually happen. They're
yeah,
gonna trade for like a reliever from the I don't know, Pittsburgh Pirates that we've never heard of, like, and they'll
uh,
probably be good, but like, we
yeah,
won't care yet.
yeah,
So it'll be a dud deadline, and we'll be sad, but hopefully we'll be up by 14 games. All right. Speaking of past and future,
yes,
Seahawks quarterback. I'm curious your thoughts. So I answered the question on the mailbag. I said I think the future of the Seahawks quarterback position is Sam Howell.
yes,
My thoughts are Gino's 34 years old. I think Gino might have a good year, but like, Gino's not the future. The other option would be you draft a guy, but I just think they're going to be decent enough / good enough as a team to not have a good pick. that they should just go for Sam Howell. What do you think?
So this is really funny because we had the same exact conversation 10 years ago, or whatever, 12 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was Russell Wilson and Matt Flynn.
Yeah.
And
I
Russell
was
Wilson
all
was
in. Matt Flynn, baby.
Matt Flynn was the free agent signing, like
Yep.
Sam Howell. But it's a little different
No,
because
no, no. We traded for Sam Howell.
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Different.
yeah.
Different.
So
And Matt Flynn was not young.
yeah. And this is not a competition. It's Geno Smith's job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sam Howell isn't going to be the starter this season. And maybe this was an unfair question from ChatGPT, like evolving over the next few years.
Right.
Um, I think Smith probably has 1 or 2 years. I think 2 years max.
Yep.
Um, I think we're going to have a quarterback competition next year. Um, the draft thing that you bring up was interesting. I think if they felt that they were going to draft a quarterback or they needed to draft a quarterback, they would have moved up this year
Totally.
because there were so many
Yep.
quarterbacks in this draft.
Yep.
So this is how I see it going. I see Smith going out this season. Then I see Howell battling up next season. If
Yep.
Howell loses against Smith next season, then
Then we
I
don't
don't
have a
know.
quarterback.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a really weird situation.
And it's actually kind of depressing
Yeah,
because Gino is like he was last year, where he's kind of like okay. Like I think he made the Pro Bowl because everybody makes the Pro Bowl now, right? But like
yeah.
he's not winning you a Super Bowl. He's not getting deep in the playoffs. He's fine, which I think he'll be better because I think Ryan Grubb will be really interesting with what they do. And I think their defense is going to be good. I'm pretty high on the Seahawks, actually, which we could talk about in future weeks. Um, but if he's still 34, right? So if Sam Howell doesn't compete and get that job, they don't have a dude.
Yeah,
So
and it's kind of interesting because everyone's roasting the Falcons for the Michael Penix pick because they
yeah,
have Kirk Cousins.
right.
Uh, but then I think about it and I'm like, that would have been nice, right?
Yeah.
To have someone that, I mean, he's gonna be because if let's play that out, if we drafted Penix, he would have been maybe 26 when he's battling for the job, and that's maybe 8 good years, maybe
Yeah,
nine,
but he's
10, the
older
way he
than Sam
plays.
Howell.
That's crazy.
I know. So like
Yeah.
I think their theory is like Sam Howell is their version of Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith, right? Like that the Seahawks, I think, view it as we have that.
And remind me of the timeline of this. Did they sign Howell after they got
So
Grubb
they
or
traded
traded? Sorry,
for Howell before. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna look it up. I think it was before Pete Carroll even left.
which is really interesting. I mean, that had to be a Schneider.
Although that can't be true, right? Like it doesn't feel like it's right. Um March 14th. So that had to be after. Yeah, that's after Pete Carroll and stuff.
Okay.
Before the draft, the month before the draft. Um, they traded, I think, I'm gonna look it up here, but I think it was just a pick for him. They sent one of their two third rounders and a fifth rounder, and they got a fourth round and a sixth round back plus Howell.
Yeah,
So
I kind of wish that they would have went for one of these quarterbacks. I think I mean, it would have cost a lot to get in the top 10, right?
yeah.
And Penix was the fourth or fifth guy off the board. Um, because I don't think Howell's as good as those guys. Those guys,
See, I
yeah,
think that's what's interesting, right? Because the shiny new person is always more exciting. So like
yeah,
Howell, because he has struggled, and all of a sudden the shine wears off a little bit. But it's interesting to hear people in the league talk about how high they are on his talent. Um, I don't know. I mean, I feel like it could go either way. I'm totally
yeah.
open to him sucking completely. And I'm open to like, hey, he might be a guy. I do know that like he was intriguing to me. And I actually randomly went to the Commanders Seahawks game this year at Lumen when he played, and I was in the end zone up above, and I could see kind of like an all 22 view, and like he was good. The Seahawks defense wasn't great, but I'm like that guy can play, and I don't really know football, but like I just thought it was interesting. So I was kind of excited when they traded for him. I like the fact that it's not Geno and Drew Lock, as much as Drew Lock
Yeah.
is kind of a G and has some
Yeah.
swag. Sam Howell at least gives me a little hope. But uh,
So do you think is he your starter? I mean, who's starting week one of the 2025 season? Is it Howell or is it Gino?
if I had to predict, I think it's gonna be Sam Howell. Yeah, I think they're gonna make a hard decision with Geno after the year and not want to pay him again. And again, save some money on a Sam Howell. He's probably at the end of a rookie deal, is my guess. And then they can put money somewhere else. Um, and I think Mike McDonald's going to run a Ravens type thing where it's like, we're going to run the ball. We're going to have some unique stuff offensively, but we're going to play really good defense. And so we don't care who our quarterback is as much.
Yeah.
All right, Kev. So given our conversation about Sam Howell, Geno Smith, what it looks like in 2025, when we think about Mike McDonald, one of the questions we got in the mailbag that I thought was one of my favorite questions, really interesting, was you got Danny Sprinkle at UW basketball, Jed Fish in a weird scenario with UW football. Um, you got Billsma in the Kraken, and then obviously Mike McDonald, right? Am I missing anybody? Those four.
Nope, you got them all.
And you said in the mailbag you thought that Jed Fish would have the best years. That what you said? No, Danny Sprinkle. You said
Danny
right,
Sprinkle, yeah.
Danny Sprinkle. So when I saw that question, my first instinct was Danny Sprinkle, but it kind of depends on how you rate it. So if you go win percentage versus playoffs, like, so do you think Danny Sprinkle's making the NCAA tournament?
Yes, I do. And
Okay.
I think he has out of all these guys, I think he has the easiest um path to most success because of the transfer class he just brought in.
Okay.
Um and Great Osabor.
Yep.
I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly because we're going to be saying it over and over again.
Sounds
But
good to me. Yep.
uh, he's been with Danny Sprinkle his entire career, his entire collegiate career. So he went to Montana State, then went to Utah State with Sprinkle, went to the NCAA tournament. Is a dude,
Yeah.
17.7 points per game, 9 point rebounds per game. Pull up a highlight tape, he can ball.
Yep.
And it's unlike football where Fish has an entire, I mean, yes, Sprinkle has an entire new roster, but it's a little different in the sense that there's five guys and not, you know, two
Right.
sides of the ball you're worrying about. And I just think that I think we've seen it in college basketball where a decent coach with just assembles a decent amount of talent and you catch fire. Big Ten's going to be hard,
Yeah.
but
That's
that's
so that's
yeah,
where I'm
yeah,
thinking.
yeah, yeah. The Big Ten's going to be
Uh,
hard. Strength of schedule, maybe that works in our favor, but yeah, yeah, maybe I'm wrong there.
yeah. I just think I'm excited about him. I'm excited about the style of play. I'm excited about the transfers. And I think you can win with the transfer portal team in both football and basketball, but really basketball. But that's a tough, it's a tough conference. And it's same for football. Like that's gonna be rough. Like we
Yeah,
had a great experience with Michael Penix and those receivers. I mean, with Rome and Jalen McMillan and Polk. I mean, it was
yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah.
I just don't. I think Husky football might struggle more than people think. I
Yeah,
think
what do you think of the floor? Do you think the floor is a bowl like a 6 win team? A six? Are you disappointed if
I
they
hope
only win
so.
six
I think the
wins?
floor could be lower. Although I think with their non-conference, like, yeah, 6 wins is probably the floor. I don't think the ceiling's above 9 though. Like I think they're in that range. I mean, unless Rogers, right? That's the quarterback
Yeah,
from Mississippi State, is
yeah,
like, really a dude. It's just too hard to tell. Sprinkle, I feel like, to your point, like, yeah, you can go get it done in basketball. And if you have a style, I mean, it's gonna be hard to go beat. Indiana's got an insane class. Michigan State's. I mean, can you imagine they're gonna go play Tom Izzo, Michigan State? Like it's gonna be so weird. Purdue
Yeah.
coming off a national
Oh
championship.
gosh, Purdue's in our conference.
Like Illinois has been phenomenal with Brad Underwood. Like they just, and then
Yeah.
you bring, USC, UCLA, and Oregon with you. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's gonna be tough. I don't know what to say about the Kraken because I don't know who they're gonna have, so it's hard to say them. So I lean towards Mike McDonald. Like I'm probably I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm all on the hype, but like the mini camp and the stuff people are saying, they're talking about how much they can move DK Metcalf around on offense and the defense. These guys are like, it's complex. Like we're doing multiple stuff. And if you watch the Ravens, they just eat people up on D because you don't know where guys are coming from. And I think I'm just juiced to watch that. Like
Yeah.
Pete Carroll brought me so much joy in my life, but if I had to watch them sit down in the same cover two version, cover three, where they allowed tight ends and running backs to catch underneath and they couldn't get to the quarterback, I couldn't handle it anymore.
Yeah, it worked. It worked for a certain amount of
Yeah.
time, and then it didn't work. And I think that's kind of the story of what happens with coaches, right? You get too stubborn in doing one thing, and then by the time you're willing to adapt, it's too late. And I
Are
think
you
that's
talking
what
about
actually
me? Are you talking about me?
I think that's what happened to Mike Hopkins. I think that's what happened to Romar. I think that's
Yeah.
what happened to a lot, some of these basketball coaches. But
Yeah.
uh and Pete Carroll was there long enough because it was Pete Carroll. I mean, how
Yeah.
he won a Super Bowl? Like
Yeah.
he get that's a trump card that you're gonna have for a while. So,
Right. Right. And
and how much of your how much of your
yeah.
answer is Ryan Grubb and not Mike McDonald?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's more Mike McDonald because I'm excited about the defense. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know if it's from just, so I grew up the 91 Huskies. I was 12 years old and like they had an insane offense with Billy Joe Hobart and Mark Brunell but that defense was just ridiculous. And the Seahawks Super Bowl was the Legion of Boom, right? So like
yeah,
something about a dominant defense excites me and they don't really have the personnel to be dominant, but if they can just be okay because they've been atrocious defensively. If they could be okay, and then if Ryan Grubb comes in and just does some things that are complex and gets the ball in our playmakers' hands, yeah, I just think they could be really good. I think the Niners are awesome talent wise, but like the NFL's the NFL, and like people take step back all the time. I think Matt Stafford and the Rams are old, and Aaron Donald's gone. I just think that
yeah.
Seahawks are primed. I'll tell you right now, Kev. I know my gambling picks don't do very well. I bet on the Seahawks to make the playoffs. So
And no one's talking about the Seahawks right
no,
now, and
I mean
that's the
I've
thing.
actually heard a little bit on podcasts, and maybe this excites me too. Some national guys saying, they'll have a conversation. They'll say, which team in the NFC do you think will surprise people? And people are starting to say the Seahawks. So I think it's Mike McDonald, and I think it's the unknown. It's the same thing as talking about what were we saying earlier, like the quarterback, like a guy you'd never seen play in the NFL, you get excited about. It's kind of the same
Yeah,
thing. Like,
yeah,
I'm excited to see Mike McDonald because he's never done it. I'm tired of
yeah,
watching Pete Carroll's defense, and maybe I'll be sad in 4 months. Uh, I hope
yeah,
not. I just think so. I'm gonna go Seahawks. I'm gonna go Seahawks
yeah.
one. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do we want to be negative and ask who's gonna have the worst season out of
I
these?
already said it. I think it's
Yeah.
gonna beat up football. I don't. I
Yeah.
just don't.
Yeah.
I'm ready for that letdown, but I'm happy to be wrong. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Well, I think the Kraken thing is hard because, like you said, we
Yeah.
don't know what the roster is going to look like. The off season's just going to get started. So,
Right.
um, damn, I don't want to think of the Huskies just having this horrible, like 6-win season. I don't think Peterson was always at like 8 games or 9 games. I don't
Yeah,
think
I
he
think his
ever.
first year he was down there, but he was taken over, and I mean Sark was routinely at 7-5.
Yeah.
And that was disappointing because Peterson came in and gave him some juice, and then obviously Kellen DeBoer, like, I mean, it was incredible, but He's dead to
Yeah.
me now, so
He's dead to everyone in Seattle too.
yeah, like what are you doing, dude?
It'll take a while to get over
You
that.
were so full of it. Like
Yeah.
you say
Yeah.
all this stuff about family and all that stuff, and we're a family, and but you just took the money, baby. Like
Yeah. Well, it's
I'm not even.
Alabama. It's Alabama. It's
I'm
it's
not even.
literally the best college football job.
Yeah, I don't even blame him. This is
Yeah.
going to sound weird, but I still don't have to like him for it,
Yeah.
right?
It feels really the way it happened, like 3 games after the national championship. It
Yeah,
just that I think that just and even the players didn't really feel good about it because I remember Sark doing the same thing, but I don't think anyone had this level of animosity toward him, and which
right.
is insane because he just brought us to the national championship.
Well,
That's what's so crazy about it.
yeah, I think part of it too is the transfer portal, right? So
Yeah.
now you can just go, and I guess you could before. If your coach left, you could leave. But the portal plus the amount of NFL dudes they had, it was like the perfect scenario of whoa, what happened to Husky football? We were just riding this high,
Yeah.
and it feel that maybe that's where my low expectations come from. Is I'm like, these guys are all
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it
all
really
those
hurt.
dudes are gone.
Well, the NFL guys left, but then we had underclassmen in the offensive line. Those guys bolted. Jabbar Muhammad went to Oregon. Like when
Yeah,
those things
rough.
happened, it was
Yeah,
really bad. It was really bad. And then we still didn't have a coach for a couple days. So,
right.
anyways,
All right,
everyone's
so
beating
we
me
have a
up.
segment
Let's
we're
get
gonna
out of
do.
here.
We're
Yeah.
gonna we're gonna do a segment, Kev. We're gonna try this every time. We're gonna call it top five, and it's a quiz game to each other. It's based on Seattle sports. You get 2 strikes. So the goal is to get all five. And it's
All
gonna be
right.
thematic. It's gonna obviously be about Seattle sports. It's a very TikTok trendy thing.
Okay.
When I get on the TikTok, this is what old people say. When I get on the TikTok, Kev, my algorithm will take me to things where these dudes will just sit in a room and like make lists, and I love it. It's awesome. So here's
Is it historical stuff, pop culture,
usually it's
anything?
sports that I find.
Yeah.
I think in the future we can go off script. Like we could do, for example, top five streaming by numbers Taylor Swift songs, and you and I would both be in on that,
Mm-hmm.
right? We could do top five, um, you know, I don't know how you would determine this, but like US generals in the Civil War. Like, I don't know. I don't know how you would determine that. We'd have to find some source. But we're gonna start simple. I'm gonna give you a top five. I told you the theme was
Mm-hmm.
gonna be the Mariners. You love the Mariners, I love the Mariners. Hot right now. It's a summer. They're in first place, a 7.5 game lead, right? So talked about this earlier. Pitching staff's ridiculous. I'm gonna give you some numbers to start you out. Okay. So the pitching staff right now by XFIP in the American League, right, which is, basically fielding independent pitching expected. So advanced metrics say it's better than ERA because it's like if you took out fielding, how nasty are you, right?
Yes.
The Mariners, George Kirby's number 6, Logan Gilbert's 14, Castillo's 16, Bryce Miller 18 in the American League. That doesn't count Brian Wu, who has been maybe the best pitcher in the American League in his 6 starts. So clearly they're nasty. The question is, how nasty are they? So they didn't make XFIP to the 70s. So we're going to use ERA. Ready?
Yeah.
You're trying to come up with the top 5 single season lowest ERAs by a Mariners starting pitcher. And they have to have enough innings. Like, I don't remember exactly what the amount is, but
So I have to give you a player and their season.
no, you don't have to give it. That would be too hard, probably. I'd
Okay.
say you could try,
Okay.
but like, just
Yeah.
give me a player, and I'll tell you if they're on the top 5
All
list.
right. All right. Felix Hernandez.
Felix Hernandez is on the list. That is correct.
Okay.
Um,
It is it. So if we say, I mean, is he on the list a couple times or just
yeah.
once?
So here's the trick with this one this year, right? Sometimes we'll have 5 different players. Here's what's crazy about Felix. He's the number 1, number 2, number 5, number 7, and number 9 all time single season earned
That's
run.
incredible.
His earned run average in 2014 was 2.14, best all time. 2010, 2.27. He has a 2.49, he has a 3.04, and he has a 3.06, which would all be better than every pitcher on the Mariners right now.
Yeah. So there's
Well,
one.
Brian Wu independent because he's, doesn't have enough starts, but
I
uh
think,
ridiculous.
yeah. So Felix was the easy one. That was low hanging fruit. I think Randy Johnson had at least one season where he just went off.
Nailed it. So 3 and 4 are Randy Johnson. So in 97, 228, 95, 248.
Give
So
me, yeah.
actually, you have technically won because you've nailed the top five. It's
Yeah.
Felix and Randy,
Okay.
right?
Uh,
Which now, before we go to the next one, my point of bringing this top five up is part of what, I think about a playoff series with the Mariners, and I love Castillo and I love Kirby and I love Gilbert. They're not, they're not Felix and Randy.
yeah.
Like in a one game, let's go get it. They're not that level. And if Garrett Cole's back and healthy for the Yankees, if Corbin Burns on the Orioles, and you're in a playoff game, Kevin Gosman even on the Blue Jays, hopefully they won't make it because they scare me. Like those kind of dudes, I don't know. I don't know. But I'm not saying they should go trade for There's not aces out there. Like we're in good shape. We just don't have a Felix or a Randy. That's all I wanted to say. All right.
Yes.
All right. So I'm
Okay.
going to tell you right now, there are three other names on the list. They're at sixth, eighth, and 10th all time.
Jamie Moyer.
He's not on the list.
Oh,
No. So one strike.
you
There you
think
go.
he'd get okay. All right,
Yeah,
so
technically you've won, even though these are
so
strikes.
do I have two more? Do I have one more strike?
You have
And
one more strike.
then
Yeah.
you tell me. Okay. Um, Cliff Lee.
No, come on. Cliff Lee. No, it's not Cliff Lee.
Okay, I'm dying to know if Jamie
Okay.
Moyer was
Number
not on there.
six, Iwakuma,
No
2013.
way.
So in 2013, Iwakuma had a 2.66 ERA. In the same year, Felix had a 3.04. So we had two ridiculous pitchers. But let me tell you about the 2013 Mariners. I prepared for this. The 2013 Mariners, Kev, you won't be surprised, were last in the American League in batting average. They
What a
also
surprise.
they went 71 and 91, and they had two of the six best pitching performances of all time in Mariners history. Well, by ERA. Iwakuma's was a little misleading, but yeah. All right, number
That's
8, 2001, the year they won 116 games. Not Jamie Moyer, who was on that team. Freddie Garcia.
yeah. See, I was thinking the 2001 team, and I guess
Yep.
Freddie was the ace,
He
but
made All-Star team that year. Yeah, I
yeah,
love Freddie Garcia.
everyone made the All-Star team that year.
That's true. They had 8 all. And number 10 is a little bit of a cheat because it was a COVID year, but it was Marco Gonzalez in 2020.
What?
Yeah, I don't. That one is gross.
Yeah,
It's absolutely disgusting. Get out
that's
of here.
why. Yeah, that was an ERA.
Yeah.
So yeah,
If you go by like WAR for the year, he's not.
yeah,
He's not on that list. So
yeah.
yeah.
Wow,
But
Marco
Iwakuma,
Gonzalez.
if
Yeah,
you did wins above replacement in 2013, had a
yeah.
7 wins above replacement that year, fourth all time in Mariner history.
That's
An
impressive.
unbelievable Iwakuma year.
He was only with the Mariners for like three,
Couple
4 years.
years,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, they just had basically two of the best pitchers in baseball, and they absolutely sucked.
Yep.
There you go.
So yeah, and I think the answer is it's not that we didn't have good pitching, it's not we didn't have enough good pitching, right? Because the batting averages are the same.
Yeah,
Anyways, I
yeah,
digress. Maybe that
yeah,
was the answer.
yeah.
Okay, so my question for you.
All right, I'm ready.
The WNBA is hot right now.
Yep.
Everybody's watching. I bought my WNBA League Pass subscription.
Yeah, let's
Uh,
go.
Christine does not have a team, but she's buying her Valkyrie gear for the Bay Area team. I'm
Let's
trying,
go.
and she's like, "Who do I root for?" I'm like, "You can root for the Storm right now."
Yep.
I count myself as a Storm fan.
Yep.
Uh, uh, there's a lot of Sue Bird content out there. She has her own like
A lot of
Peyton's.
commercials.
Yeah, she has her own commercials. Peyton, you know how Peyton Manning has his little like ESPN short show.
Yep.
Sue Bird has her own series for college basketball.
Yeah.
Great series.
Yep.
I need to brush up on my Seattle Storm history so people know
Perfect.
that I was a fan, right?
Yeah.
And
Take it.
yeah, yeah. So my question for you is Can you name the 5 Storm All-Stars not named Sue Bird and Lauren Jackson in the Seattle Storm's entire history?
Ooh, there's only 5 others?
Actually, I think there might be 6. So
Okay.
you have to name 5 because
Okay.
that's the game, but I think there might be 6.
Okay. Ezzy Megabor made it. I didn't say her name wrong, but she made it
Yeah.
last year.
Yep, that's 1.
Jewel Lloyd,
That's 2.
Brianna Stewart.
That's 3. Now it gets hard.
Now it gets hard. I should get some credit for the 3. Okay. Okay. I gotta think. God, they had some like random like star players come and play at one point alongside Sue
Let,
Bird. Uh,
let me give you some of this flavor. So from 2001 to 2007,
yep.
it was Lauren Jackson had made all those All-Star games except for 2004 for some reason. She must
I
have
think
been
she was
injured.
hurt. She was hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when Sue Bird, I think she came her rookie year was 2002. She had made it all the way till 2011.
Okay.
And then she stopped making the All-Star game. So uh
Mm,
this is
this,
really hard. It's
this
okay
is
for
gonna
you
be
to just
hard.
give up.
I mean, Cheryl
Yeah.
Swoops played for the Storm one time.
Yeah.
She didn't make the All-Star team.
She did not make the All-Star. I mean, I look at these games of like they're actually well-known women's basketball players.
I feel like they had God, this is gonna bother me so much. I got nothing.
Okay, so this is really weird. 2008, there was no All-Star game. And I don't know
So there
why.
was a year that sometimes they've tried different things, right? So the league has been trying to expand. Like obviously Caitlin Clark has helped
Yeah,
the rookie class in general. The ratings are up, but they've constantly been tweaking, trying to get ratings, right? So
yeah.
they do like this year the All-Star game. Did you know this? It's the Team USA against the All-Stars.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So it's partly to get ready for the Olympics, which is smart. But I
Yeah,
think in 2008, right, that would have been an Olympic year.
yeah,
Not wrong. And so I think they just didn't play it because of the Olympics, which is always tricky with the WNBA. You know, for the NBA, it's tricky because they come off of a season and guys like Luka Doncic is like, he's clearly hurt. Is he going to play in the Olympics, right?
yeah.
Is
Well,
Leonard going to play in the
yeah,
Olympics?
you're really smart because now I'm looking at this thing. 2008, no All-Star game. 2012, no All-Star game. 2016, no All-Star game. 2020, no All-Star game. So there you go. They
See,
don't play All-Star games during the Olympics.
I'm just delaying trying to make 2 more guesses also.
Yeah, so
Uh,
2009, 2010, 2011,
okay,
Swin
wait.
Cash.
Swin Cash. That's who it was. Swin Cash. All timer. Good player.
Yeah. So
Okay. She
that's
made it that many years?
so she made it, yeah, 2009 through 2011.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then Lauren Jackson's last All-Star game was 2010. Tina Thompson in
Tina
2013.
Thompson. That's the other one. They're both legends. And they randomly played for the Storm.
Yeah. And then Sue Bird ripped off a few more All-Star games, 2014, 2015. Then Brianna Stewart came in 2017.
Yep.
Natasha Howard in 2019.
Oh yeah, she was awesome. I
And then
should.
that's it. Those are your Storm
Tasha
All
Howard.
Stars. So the
She's
Storm
awesome
have
on down.
existed since 2000. It's been 23 years. They've had like 7 different All Stars,
That's
which
actually,
is,
if you think about it, like
yeah,
it's a small roster. That's not bad. I mean, this year
yeah,
will be interesting. They'll probably have a couple in part because Jewel Lloyd will be on the USA team, so she's out of the equation. And then it's the 12 next best players in the league. So,
yeah.
you know, Ezzy could make it, Skylar Diggins Smith could make it, NECA could make it. Yeah, they could anyway. That was a
You
good
can
one.
easily name all the Storm All Stars now. That's kind of nice.
I could name
Uh,
their whole roster right now.
yeah,
Like, yeah, like if you want to get into whether I think Jordan Horston should be playing as much as she is, like we can talk about it, but I don't think this deep into the podcast. That's really the vibe.
all right. So we got one last segment and then we'll wrap it up. We've
Okay.
probably blown past the half hour, but that's
Yep.
okay.
Of course. Yep.
We'll get
Can't
better.
help it. Yep.
Um, So we think it's been 12 years since we
Yep.
last podcasted, maybe
Yep.
less than that, but it had me thinking about 2012, which was 4 years after that horrible 2008 year.
Yep.
And I put together some questions here and some topics. I was going to ask this when we were talking about the Seahawks, but then I remembered that it was a question.
Yeah.
Is this year's Seahawks team as close to as good as the 2012 Seahawks? And let me remind you, the 2012 Seahawks, that was the year before the Super Bowl. And so I think we lost to the Falcons, and Russell
Yep.
Wilson was just getting a little better,
Yep.
and the defense was incredible. The defense was
Uh, yeah, this
peaking.
team is nowhere near that team.
Okay.
As high as I was in my earlier segment
Yeah.
about them, no, that team you could. I don't know if you could feel Super Bowl coming, but like you could feel they were on the brink. And I think part of it's Russ. Like he was young. I think he was a rookie when they went against the Falcons.
Yeah.
You could just see he was going to be good, and they had that defense. Like I'm mostly intrigued by the coaches right now and the wide receiver personnel. Like the quarterback position, like we said, is who knows, and the defense has some holes. Like they're not ready. They're not close. To me, what do you think?
Yeah. Um, well, if I was super optimistic about the Seahawks like you are, I'd say the ceiling this season's maybe like 10 wins. The ceiling for the 2012 Seahawks was a Super Bowl. So I
Yeah,
think that's a difference there.
yeah,
Um, uh, but then again, like the 49ers are, they can be in the way here
right.
this season. So okay. I always like to think about that 2012 squad because they were they were just on the cusp. Like,
Yep.
and we knew that they were on the cusp of
Yeah,
being
you could feel
very
it.
good.
I
Yeah.
don't feel it right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Um, all right. The Mariners.
Yep.
People do not think about the 2012 Mariners.
No, but you want to know a fun fact about the 2012 Mariners?
Please tell me about the 2012 Mariners.
That is the year they had a combined no hitter and Felix's perfect game
Oh,
within the span of 2 months.
do you remember where you were when Felix Hernandez threw the perfect game?
100%. I was at Seattle Prep working. I was doing something with curriculum for teaching. I was sitting there at a table trying to stay present in a meeting while checking my phone and losing my mind. Where were you?
I was interning at the King County Prosecutor's Office, and I
Oh,
was streaming it on my computer. A couple days later, they sent an office-wide email out about not streaming sports. Um,
it was worth it. It was
yes, it
totally worth
was.
it.
People were coming by and asking me if he got the perfect game. I was like, yes, he got the
Wait,
perfect game.
you were
Yes.
interning
Yes, I was
and
interning.
you made a office wide email go out.
Yeah, you know those shame emails where they don't tell you who it was, but everyone knows who it was?
Everyone knew it was you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Um, and
So
it turned out okay. I have a job now. I
yeah.
graduated from college. I did not get fired from that internship.
Oh my god.
But
And
yeah,
it
I'll
was
never
worth it.
forget
It
that.
was
Yeah,
totally
it was
worth it.
totally worth it. Okay. Combined no hitter and Felix Hernandez's perfect game.
Yep.
Um, Felix Hernandez, you can't take. I
Yep.
think we'd all agree we would take him and put him on this year's team. If you could
Yeah.
take one player from that team and put him on this year's team, who is it?
Yeah, there's no one else. So I have looked. I mean, this team, Felix was filthy. He had a 3.06 ERA. He had 223 strikeouts and 232 innings. Like, come on. He was ridiculous. And it wasn't even one of his best years, but he was good. Um, the rest of the pitchers, I mean, obviously you don't take them for this year's team anyway, right? You'd
Yeah.
think a hitter, but like, I don't know. Kyle Seager is probably a good choice at third base, but I don't know. Kyle Seager seems like a great dude. There's something about the way Kyle Seager played baseball that I don't want to go back to. And that's probably unfair because he's probably a beloved Mariner. But like, give me Josh Rojas, baby. I'm riding Josh Rojas till the wheels come off. I don't want anybody else. I love
Uh,
Josh.
oh
It's the
man,
most ridiculous take I have.
all right. If you don't want to hear about the 2012 Mariners, then you're listening to this. first of all, thanks for making it this far in the
Yeah.
podcast. But second of all, close your ears because I'm going to name the roster right now.
Yes, please do.
Catcher, Miguel Olivo.
Let's go.
First base, Justin Smoke. Okay, and then I'll give you the batting average.
Yep.
Olivo was 222.
Yep.
Justin Smoke, 217.
Mm.
Dustin Ackley,
Mm-hmm.
226. So
Yep.
if what's his face? Jared Kelenic was a disappointment. You don't know what disappointment was
Oh no,
because
you don't
Dustin
know.
Ackley was
And
disappointing.
none of these dudes had over 51 RBIs. Like none of them
Yeah.
were like Smoke's not even producing at 217.
Okay. Third base, Kyle Seager,
Yep.
259. And I'm skipping shortstop for a reason here. Left field, Casper Wells, 228.
Casper Wells.
Michael Saunders, 247. Ichiro, this is
Yeah.
shocking, 261.
Only played 95 games, was 38 years old.
261, which is crazy because he had like 10 more years after this.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Jesus Montero, 260. Okay, I gave you a lot of batting averages. Those weren't the worst. The worst in the starting lineup was Brendan Ryan, 194.
I loved Brendan Ryan's defense. He was such a stud on defense.
Yeah.
But this team on
Yeah.
the bench had Sean Figgins and Mike Carp, Eric Thames, who had a great moment in a post-game interview when he got a whipped cream pie in the face. Alex Liddy, who was an Italian player, played for Italy in the Olympics. I mean, this team, Carlos Pagero, like these guys were absolute dumpster fire garbage.
Yeah,
Garbage.
it was really bad.
So to
Yeah.
answer your question, Kev, here's who I'm taking. I'm taking the bartender, Tom Wilhelmsen, who was the closer that year, who had ups and downs, but he had a 2.5 ERA, 29 saves, 79 innings pitched, 87 strikeouts. Nicknamed the bartender because he was a bartender at one point when he was out of baseball. Give me Tom Wilhelmsen as a setup guy for Stanek and Munoz, and we're going to the World Series, baby.
Uh, God. Well, hopefully we'll never have to talk about the 2012
Yeah,
Mariners ever again.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Let's finish up with, we'll go back to where we started. Why after 12, 13 years when, we're doing other things in our life and you have a child now, I have two kids, we could easily not be doing it. Like, so
yes,
why are we doing this, Kev? Why are we doing it?
it's fun. And this
Yeah.
is I feel like when we were doing this back then, I legitimately thought I maybe would want to be a sports journalist, sports writer.
Yeah.
And I could have tried it and done it, but it's not as fun when it's work.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
And I can write a lot better and clearer than I could 12 years ago. So I'll never read what I wrote back then, even in college, because it was like, what was I thinking when I wrote that?
Yeah.
Um, but it's just fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I agree. It's like my outlet, like it's fun. I enjoy talking to you. We text, it's a blast talking about sports. But also for me, like I decided to stop coaching high school basketball after 23 years. Um and that took up a lot of time, obviously, and I loved it. But I needed like it's just I'm finding different outlets in my life, things I like to do. Obviously, I'm gonna spend time with my kids and coach them and different things, but this is just something I've never stopped liking. That was a bad,
Yes.
but you know what I mean? Like I've always
Yeah.
like, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to talk to Kev about sports.
Yeah.
Like that'd be fun. So
Yeah.
glad we get to do it.
And technology has come a long way. At one
Technology.
point, we were at your house with
Yep.
one laptop,
Yep.
clicking record and just hoping things would work out.
Yep.
Now we're able to do this over Zoom,
In different states.
in different
Yep.
states, and
Negotiating your child's bedtime and my children. I didn't even tell you that one of my children snuck up and stared at me in the middle of this thing because I think he wanted to buy V-Bucks on Fortnite. So there you go.
yeah, and my kid is crying right now, so
Okay,
we better
perfect.
wrap it up.
All right.
This won't be the last time.
This
Thanks
will
for
not.
joining us, and I'm interested to see how long this went.
Yeah.
All
All right.
right,
Take
all
care.
right. Take
Bye.
care.